Okay, so I just watched the latest installment of the Jurassic Park franchise, the Jurassic World Stillbirth. In spite of the movie being complete and utter crap, the main antagonist dinosaur, the D-Rax, had a really cool design with its beluga whale inspired head, which all gave me the idea to create this video of could Jurassic Park's or Jurassic World hybrids survive the Catachan. Now, before anyone starts typing that the D-Rax is not technically a hybrid, well, this is my channel and I can do what I want. Plus, technically, every single Jurassic Park dinosaur is a hybrid. Okay, before we start, I need to set some metrics based upon which we shall be judging them. Those being, could they survive the local flora/fauna, what would be their primary prey items and how easy would it be to take them down, and finally, even if they can't survive on their own, would they be of enough use to the Catachan jungle fighters that they can be tamed and incorporated into the Imperial Guard and civil population. And one more thing to add, in order for them to have a viable breeding population, we shall be putting about 200 to 300 of them on the planet. Okay, with that said, let's get into it. But before we do, more than 88% of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so if you enjoy this one, remember to click the like and subscribe button. Starting us off will be the D-Rax, also going by a much cooler title, the Deformed King. D-Rax is huge, being 8.1 meters tall and 14.5 meters wide. To keep that in context, largest adult Catachan devils, you know, the apex predators of the Catachan, are 2.1 meters tall and up to 30 meters long. D-Rax is also sort of smart, nothing that compares to humans of course, or even other creatures on this list, but he is comparable to maybe like a really smart dog. What I mean to say is that he can learn what creatures should be hunted and from which ones you should run the fuck away. And that's kind of all he has going for him, I know, very disappointing. I promise things will get way more interesting with the purposefully engineered hybrids like the I-Rex and the Indoraptor. So with that said, let's go through the metrics set above and see if he can survive. First parameter, can he survive local flora and fauna, aka plants and animals? And well, let's first check up on the plants. Catachan mantraps, grappleweeds, strangle plants, alongside other similar plants, are known to mostly attack human-sized creatures, so D-Rax is most likely too large to be seen as a prey item. Now, as for the spore trees, I'm not really sure if they would be effective or not, so I would like to hear your opinions down below. I'll give you arguments both for them being effective and not being effective, and then you can decide for yourself. It doesn't really alter the final verdict anyways. So argument for it being able to take down the D-Rax is that it can simply blow up its spore stashes, choking the local area and the D-Rax, thus not allowing it to breed and making it pass out. Now, as for the argument against it, D-Rax is smart enough and fast enough to simply run away from the explosion. And if it still can't breed, it can also use its long arms to try and claw away the spores stuck in its nasal cavity. Now, one plant that would be for sure effective against the D-Rax would be the Canak floaters. These angry plants are literal heat-seeking missiles. Once they detect the heat signature, they immediately go towards it before blowing up and releasing razor-sharp spores that can go through almost anything. I don't have the source for this one, so you're just gonna have to trust me, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that not even the Catachan devils are safe from the floaters. And Catachan devils are known to shrug bolter fire, that's on the upper end of estimates equivalent to like our own 30mm rounds. Speaking of the Catachan devil, let's look at the Catachan's truly lovely wildlife. For the sake of the video length, we shall be excluding less threatening animals, or more accurately monsters, like the blood wasps and the heretic ants, which are just normal ants and wasps that took a vacation to hell and pledged their soul to Satan and evil. So our first animal shall be the barking toad, which when provoked turns itself into a thermonuclear device, turning anything that resides in a 1 kilometer radius into green sludge. Just imagine the interaction. D-Rax walks up to a harmless frog, probably trying to investigate what it is. Meanwhile, the frog is like, long live the Caliphate. Allahu Akbar! Yeah, safe to say the D-Rax ain't surviving that shit. Next up are the Drake bats, which are just Ogren-sized vampire bats. And listen, one-on-one, yeah, D-Rax no diffs one Drake bat, but the issue is that Drake bats sometimes fight in small packs. Even so, D-Raxes are smart enough to stick together and protect each other if need be, so I don't think that Drake bats would be foolish enough to attack them. The only way for them to take down a herd of like 10 to 20 fully grown D-Raxes would be together in their hundreds, and even then they would most likely suffer extreme casualties. If anything, D-Raxes would be the ones trying to hunt down the bats, because they are one of the less dangerous animals on the planet. Another good food source for the D-Raxes would be the Groxes, because they are just 40k's version of feral hogs. That's it. I guess it's also stated that they are pretty delicious. Now let's talk about the apex predators on the planet, aka the Catachan devils. Again, one-on-one, D-Raxes probably win with extremely high difficulty. But wherever there is one Catachan devil that you can see, there are probably 30 that you can't. They have been known to gather in such numbers that they were able to both destroy the entire Space Marine warbands, alongside whole Imperial Guard tank companies. Safe to say that in an engagement between a herd of the Catachan devils and D-Raxes, the devils will be able to come out on top, if through nothing else than through sheer attrition alone. Now there are also vein worms that burrow into your flesh and then lay their eggs there, that once they hatch, blah blah blah. I don't think I have to continue, you can probably guess what happens next. I could continue with the second metric, which is what would it hunt for survival, but there really is no point, because I think it's pretty obvious that the D-Rax wouldn't be able to survive Catachan. It's simply too large and too weakly armored for such an environment. But would the Catachan jungle fighters tame them and then use them? No, same reason applies. It wouldn't be useful neither on the planet nor in the Catachan Imperial Guard regiments. Those regiments rely on stealth, and nothing quite says the absence of stealth like the 48-foot dinosaur that's louder than a truck and irradiates the same amount of heat as a small battleship. So D-Rax is going into extinction. But what about a far more smart and cunning animal? Could the Indoraptor do better? Well, let's first talk about all the abilities that the Indoraptor possesses, which are extreme agility, stealth and tracking abilities, human-like intelligence, bulletproof skin to 556 but possibly even to the 50 cal, echolocation, night vision, and finally speculated and highly likely but not confirmed, thermal vision, body heat regulation and extreme resistance towards poisons and toxic gases. Okay, with that said, let's see if it can survive local flora and fauna. And I think that yes, decently large population would be able to survive but not thrive on Catachan. Indos probably have similar thermal body regulation to that of the I-Rex, which was able to fool modern thermal sensors, which would for sure allow them to avoid supremely dangerous creatures, such as the Kanak floaters. They also possess echolocation, thermal vision and decent sense of smell, which would allow them to avoid dangerous plants and animals like the bats and the rainworms. Again, also to repeat, Indos have human DNA, as such they possess human intelligence, so they can learn and adapt to different circumstances and teach their young what they can and cannot do. They are also raptors, so they would most likely live and hunt in packs, making them able to take down far more dangerous animals like the Groxes and Drake bats. Catachan devils though would still definitely be off the menu, so in my opinion Indos would be able to survive but would remain in very limited numbers. That is, if they were left on their own. Yeah, Catachan jungle fighters would definitely tame and use these guys both in the guard as well as civilian work animals and even pets, which should be of no surprise since Indos were literally designed in Jurassic World universe specifically with military application in mind. They were designed to warn small unit formations of possible enemies or traps through the use of their echolocation, thermal vision and sense of smell. They also probably possessed, if not straight up immunity, then at very least a great resistance towards weapons such as poison gas. All of these traits would be incredibly useful in a military animal, especially considering that the Catachan prefer to fight guerrilla warfare, aka hiding in the jungles, mountains and other hard to maneuver terrain, just waiting for the right time to strike weakly defended targeted targets. The only downside to this is that due to them preferring to cross broken terrain, they are often equipped with very light armaments and limited supplies. Indoraptors could serve as pack animals, carrying supplies, hunting local wildlife for food, stalking and eliminating hostile search parties, warning the jungle fighters of possible poison gas attack, and so much more. Also, all of the things I just mentioned apply to the civilian population of Catachan as well, except just replace the militants with local wildlife and poison gas attacks with Canuck floaters. Okay, that's it for the Indoraptors. Now let's talk about the I-Rexes. And well, I-Rex is just flat out a better version of the D-Rax. It's slightly shorter, coming in at just 6.7 meters tall, but what they lack in size they more than make up with hacks. I-Rex has at its disposal human-like intelligence, thermal and night vision, body heat regulation that managed to fool thermal cameras, extremely good camouflage, basically making it impossible to see with the naked eye, and finally bulletproof skin. I don't think I have to go through all the points again, because I-Rex is just a bigger version of the Indoraptor, which is both a blessing and a curse. Obviously that means that it will have an easier time hunting prey, but it also means that it's gonna have to go out to hunt more. Just like the Indoraptors, I believe that the Indomituses would be able to carve out a small niche for themselves, but that their numbers would remain relatively low. Also, I don't think that the jungle fighters would employ them. I-Rexes are simply way too large to be of any practical use for their style of war. I could maybe see the civilian population taming them, but even then they require a lot of calories to stay alive, which means more hunts and higher odds of attracting the attention of unwanted individuals like the Catachan devils, which isn't as large of an issue for the Indomitus, which can simply go invisible and turn its heat signature off, but its crew can't really do the same. The rider commanding the Indominus Rex would also probably be very vulnerable to getting snatched up by the bats before the I-Rex has any time to react and save them. Okay, last hybrid in this video is the most unstable schizo animal on this list, the queen that needs no man, and I do mean that literally, the Scorpius Rex. Okay, let's first cover the abilities that the Scorpius Rex possesses, those being extreme aggression, ADHD, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, pug face, and finally thermal vision. Scorpius attacks anything it sees, and I believe we can already cut the scenario here, because I think it's pretty clear that the Scorpius population ain't surviving even a week on Catachan. Due to their aggression, they are simply gonna attack anything they see, even if the odds are highly against them. It's only a matter of time before they encounter something that can kill them, be it the Catachan devils or even a group of drake bats. They are also not helped by the fact that they absolutely hate each other and thus would never team up into packs. They are also kinda retarded, so there's no chance in hell that they would be able to figure out that you shouldn't go near spore trees or Canuck floaters. The only advantage that they possess is that they can reproduce on their own, kind of like the mourning geckos. Mourning geckos, as in like they are mourning the loss of half of their species, because all of those geckos are female. Which is not technically correct, since males still exist, it's just that they are super rare, and even more often than not infertile. But that's besides the point. What I mean to say is that Scorpiuses can reproduce on their own, but that also means that each one is a carbon copy of its mother, meaning that they can't really evolve, outside of some minor genetic mutations on the individual basis. Which all means that if a deadly virus evolves to specifically prey upon the Scorpiuses, they don't really stand much of a chance. And guess what Catachan is known for? Yes, it's known for having literal viruses that can melt your skin. Okay, so Scorpius isn't gonna be able to survive on Catachan alone, but what about the jungle fighters? Would they utilize them? No, absolutely not. Scorpiuses are too genetically unstable for that. They have been shown to be easily distracted by loud noises and even heat. They have proven to be extremely temperamental, sometimes not killing easy prey, sometimes attacking other creatures for no reason at all, and sometimes just sitting in place. And with that, we conclude this video. If you liked it, smash the like and subscribe button, comment if you agree or even disagree down below. Until the next time, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.